From patriarchal beauty standards
to corrupt cops.
This week, we'll be discussing The Substance, Rebel Ridge, and The Passion of Joan of Arc.
This is The Film Angle. Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Kris.
And I'm Alex.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it indeed, Kris.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
I know. Do you know, I actually I have a question for you to start our little catch-up segment. So I've been watching some films over the last couple of weeks. Some of them we're talking about today, and some of them
I hope so.
we're not. But one of them I'm questioning whether it is a film or not, because you can review it on Letterboxd, but it is a comedy special. So my question to you is, the Adam Sandler comedy special, directed by one of the Safdie brothers, should I be rating that on Letterboxd? Should I be adding it to my diary? Is it a film? Where do you stand on comedy specials?
It's weird, isn't it? Because I think when I first went on Letterboxd, I remember seeing the Eddie, the classic Eddie Murphy stand-up comedy show that was from the 70s. That always was it was regarded as one of the best. I always saw that on Letterboxd, and I didn't really think about it, but I suppose so. I mean, it's not a film, is it? But in the same way as if the Hamilton movie that came out a couple of years ago, it's just a shot of the play. It's just watching the play. So I mean, where does movie end and live performance start? That's interesting.
It's true, especially because the film. Oh, there you go. I said the film, but the comedy special plays with that as well. So you can definitely tell that it's been directed by Josh Safdie. It has a very chaotic beginning, a behind the scenes look at what's going on as Adam Sandler turns up to the venue. He's got family there, he's got friends there, he's got fans there, and they're all wanting a piece of his attention. Yeah, I've watched this. This.
Okay.
And it's really good. But that's what I'm saying. Is so that element of it is clearly, I would say, clearly constructed. But then you get into the comedy special, which is very much live, but still interesting use of cameras and dynamics and interesting things going on. Josh Safdie doesn't treat this like a point and shoot thing.
Yeah.
And then ends with a little bit of that kind of, maybe, I'm going to say fake,
so
but
it's
not.
bookended, but the main meat of the thing is just the show.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people putting comedy specials on their Letterboxd accounts.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I feel that's the thing I do. I don't put TV shows on there.
Yes, people put WandaVision in there or something like that. I'm a bit hesitant to do that.
Yeah, I don't.
I did come on this platform for it to be films, but then I don't want to discourage other people too. It is what you make of it. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be a purist over this thing, but it is. It makes an interesting conversation. But it's like I said, the Hamilton movie, or even the Jackass movies. Those, are they movies? Really? I mean,
Jackass is movies. I would say they're movies. They're almost like documentaries. But then I guess people would argue this is semi-documentary driven.
I gotta watch it myself. I have no stake. But from what you say, it sounds like a comedy special with some extra flair.
Yeah. So, I just was conflicted. I haven't added it to my Letterboxd account. I did really like it. It is very funny. If you saw his previous one from 4 or 5 years ago on Netflix, I think, that was very funny as well. This one's very crude. I did watch this one with my parents, and there are a few moments where I was like, "Oh, this is really crude."
The one a few years ago was 100% Fresh. Was it that one?
Yeah, I've watched that one a few times because I think it is hilarious.
I love Sandler, man.
He's so good.
Yeah, I really like him.
He's so good. Well, that's the thing. I've got nothing against the comedy special. I was just intrigued on your opinion on how to add things to your letterbox. I stick purely to films.
I like anybody else listening as well, just to kind of chime in and say like yes or no or like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you can add comments on Spotify now. So comment, do you add comedy specials? And also we're on YouTube now, so add comments there as well.
Yes, YouTube historically is meaner.
Yes.
But we haven't came across it yet. So yeah, so far we're enjoying that platform.
Not one dislike. This is what everybody goes on and dislikes us now. So great stuff.
Absolutely.
There you go. That was it. I just thought an interesting way to kind of start the discussion there with, just something that I was wondering about myself. I'm conflicted. Yeah. Do I add this?
It makes me want to watch it now just for the experiment.
Yeah. It's you can tell it's a Safdie produced, directed thing. Yeah, you need to watch The Curse. Just saying, everybody needs to watch The Curse.
Yes,
I know it's the other Safdie brother, but
with Emma Stone. Yes, yeah,
and Nathan Fielder, just perfect. You need to watch it.
All right.
Yep, there you go. I did want to announce something. Is that okay, Chris?
Okay. Why do I feel nervous?
You know what it is.
I'm playing coy.
We've been sitting on this for a minute just because we weren't. We just wanted to make sure that it was actually going to happen. We are very, very excited to announce that the Film Angle will be attending the BFI London Film Festival this year.
Ooh, it is really exciting.
It is cool. And when I say the Film Angle, unfortunately, I do mean only
one
me.
Half.
Yeah,
the better half.
We do work. Well, some say that.
Some say
we do work proper jobs outside of this, and unfortunately, only I was able to get the time off. And the festival did come around as a bit of a surprise. We didn't know it was definitely coming. I applied on a bit of a whim for press accreditation, and very overjoyed to find that we got accepted. And we're coming to the festival as a member of the press. So
you're going to be there for how long?
I am going to be there for a week. There's a couple of days I'm actually working in London with my real job. But yeah, going to be spending a week there watching as many films as I can, reporting back to you, Chris. And
queuing up at 8 a.m. to go see is that the earliest you've ever seen a film in the cinema?
I believe so. I still don't know all the ins and outs, but yeah, it sounds like the press screenings start really early on. And if you want to get in there, there's a bit of pre-booking, there's a bit of rush queues and all that kind of stuff.
Anybody listening does not understand how much of a big deal that is for Alex, because Alex, historically, not a morning person.
It's true.
No, we still love you, man. It's okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's different though, isn't it? Because this is a really big deal for us, and I'm really excited.
I'm excited.
I'm beyond excited to be able to kind of experience the festival. I've never actually been to the London Film Festival. I went to the Sundance London Film Festival,
yes,
which was 2012. So
you went with did your dad go with you? Was that right?
Yeah. It was because it was over 10 years ago. So I needed a guardian. No, that was great, but that was very different. I got to shake Colin Trevorrow's hand there.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Back when you could shake his hand, probably.
Well, yeah, I guess
the access wouldn't be as easy now, I think.
Yeah, you made it sound like he was dead for a minute.
No, I know. I'm just saying this is pre Jurassic World, and yeah,
it was pre Jurassic World. It was Safety Not Guaranteed, which was I love that. I still love that film to this day. But yeah, so we're kind of figuring out logistics still, but I would expect to see, at a minimum, an episode soon previewing the festival, hoping to do some day-to-day reporting, or at least a combination of a few days reporting.
Yes.
Maybe some video stuff involved there. So on the week of the podcast that's during the festival, you might find that it's not exactly on a Wednesday, or there might be a few little mini episodes spruced in. We don't know yet. We're figuring that out as we figure out how we're actually going to do it. And then we'll obviously do a massive kind of download of the experience when I'm back online with you, Chris.
Yeah.
And I believe as well as part of the press accreditation, there's some a digital library of stuff that you and I can watch together and kind of speak about some of those films as well. So
exactly. So I'm not completely left out. I can bring something to the table. It won't be just an episode of me listening to Alex's amazing holiday. It's not like that.
Yes,
this is going to be knees deep.
Yes, and it's a working holiday, you know? It's a working holiday. We make no money from the podcast, so I'm going off of my own accord here, so everybody be nice to me.
Absolutely.
I'm trying my best. But yeah, hopefully, you never know, we might chat to some people. We may already be in some talks with some people to potentially appear in the future. So if that all happens, you'll know about it, because, watch this space. I'm very excited. But also, if you go into the festival yourself, whether you're a member of the press or not, and you want to say hi, or maybe even jump on a recording and talk about your experience at the festival or review a film with me, drop us a message. You can obviously message us through all the kind of different social media platforms, your Instagrams and your TikToks, but we also now have an email dedicated to the podcast as well now. So you can email us thefilmanglepodcast@gmail.com. So drop us an email if you want to, get involved as well. It'd be good. I'm going alone, as much as I want Kris there with me. You never know. Maybe somebody else will come in and want to spend 5 minutes, have a coffee and chat some films. So let me know.
Well, this is a big first step, buddy. Really proud of you. Happy for you to represent us over there. Can't wait for you to get back and tell us all about it. Do you feel better now that you've released that information? You've been bottling up for a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I had to make sure it was real for a minute. I had to make sure I could definitely do it, when I was going to do it, and what doing it might look like. Because, as much as you have a kind of press badge, essentially, it doesn't guarantee you to see any of the films. But it looks like, with the amount of time I'm spending there and knowing the systems in place to be able to watch those films, I should hopefully be watching lots and lots of movies. So I'm very excited. And so if you come in, I look forward to seeing you there.
There you go. Well, you've heard it here. Keep an eye on this.
Watch this space.
Watch this space,
big
baby.
Things coming up in a few episodes, that's for sure. So very excited.
Just don't forget about me. That's all.
Of course not. Kris, if this goes well, we're going back next year. You and I together.
Absolutely.
Husband, we're going to do it.
And husband together.
If this works out, let's apply for Cannes.
Okay, slow down, Alex.
New York Film Festival, Toronto Film Festival. Let's do it, baby.
The Film Angle current account is sitting at minus 10K right now. So.
Horses. We've only spent money on the podcast. We've never made money on the podcast.
You got to spend money to make money.
Exactly. One day, the goal is this is the full-time job.
Yes.
You can help us out, guys. Spread the word.
Should we get into the show, Alex?
Yeah, let's get back to the real meat and potatoes of the podcast. Let's start with our first review, shall we?
So we have a pretty big movie to talk about. I think several weeks ago, we weren't really planning to talk about this film. Well, always wanted to see it, but it just kind of came out of nowhere, and surprised that it got the big general release in our area. This is The Substance, directed by Coralie Fargeat, starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. The Substance follows the fading celebrity Elizabeth Sparkle, who decides to engage in an experimental drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself, unknowingly giving her horrifying side effects.
Indeed. I wasn't even sure.
A lot of movie.
Yeah, a lot of movie. I wasn't even sure this, because it is a bit of an independent release, released by Mubi. I wasn't 100% sure you were going to get it in Plymouth, Kris. I wasn't sure this episode would be structured in this way. But I was very happy to see that it, like you said, it got the wide release.
It's the most un-Plymouth movie that ever Plymouthed.
And it played even on cinema screens outside of the Watershed in Bristol, which I don't know if I should have been surprised, but I was surprised. I don't know. I thought this was going to be a smaller affair, but do you know what? Packed screening. I went to the Showcase, Avonmeads, just because it's a slightly longer film and I wanted to stretch my legs on their recliner chairs. And it is a lot of movie, like you said. It is a lot of movie.
I have a theory why they released it the way they did. I think they just knew that they were like, we're going to get into it, but it's such an audacious out there film. And I know we've kind of gone into a world where we kind of say that about a lot of films, that we kind of just got saddled with getting used to kind of mediocre provocation. But this is like, I'm not joking. This is like out there. This is like nearly Titan level. If you've seen that film. So I think they probably knew that word of mouth would do the job, and people would say, dude, you gotta see this film. It's really like, it's something. So I think it might be a good strategy, actually.
And to be fair, when I went into my work today and, everybody said, well, what do you do with the weekend? I said, I went to see The Substance. It was great. And somebody said, oh, I'm going to see that. And then...
right, and you were expecting to hear people go, oh, what's that about?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, good to see that happening. It won Best Screenplay at the Cannes Film Festival. And I must say, I would really love to see the screenplay for this. I'm not sure if it's available online yet or not. But let's get into it. Demi Moore is a kind of fading celebrity in the film, and her producer of this kind of fitness show that she does, which is, I should say, in a very kind of heightened reality of the world, very stylistically heightened reality. She overhears her producer kind of talking about how they need to get rid of her. Her producer's played by Dennis Quaid. Really interesting choice of cast in this film, I think.
Really? Considering that his latest film is Ronald Reagan, where he plays Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, and all he's done recently feels like dog films and religious movies. So, and for this to be quite a provoking and extremely R-rated film, it is an 18. It was interesting to see him in it, but he plays this kind of vile, disgusting human producer very well. And Demi Moore, she, is very concerned about her age and her looks, and decides to engage in this experimental drug that creates a separate version of herself, a younger, a bleat better version of herself. And it kind of goes from there. They are one. The film does a lot to remind you they are one.
That, yeah.
But they can only spend 7 days as each specimen each time. So
it's worth saying, because I assumed going into the film that she'd like transform into a younger woman, but she does actually like split and grow a younger woman from her back. Literally, she gives, the poster kind of tells you. So the body horror kind of starts from there, and I think it's worth saying the biggest influence on this movie is definitely Cronenberg. I think he'd be proud.
Yes, it's almost as if like Showgirls was mixed with The Fly.
Oh, absolutely, yes, and it has the devastation of The Fly too. I love The Fly; that's such a great movie. Yeah. Oh, and Demi Moore's back, right? I mean, like I know she didn't leave, but like she is insane in this film. She's so good. Like,
I've seen a lot of people say like this is a really brave role for her. I don't always like people when people say like this is really brave, so brave. Yes. And it usually just means there's nudity. In which this case there is a lot of nudity.
It's usually like a word targeted towards female actors. As opposed, like you never hear anybody say that about a guy. Oh, he's so brave, So it's a little bit. I don't really subscribe to that either. But
it is an interesting role, and I imagine a role that probably played on fears of her own. Kind of aging within Hollywood, which the film picks apart, and how kind of.
The opening shot of the film is great. She is like it's like 40 years back, and she's just got her Hollywood star fame. And it's just this one long shot of the years passing by, and the star getting more cracked, and ketchup being spilled on it, and homeless people walking over it, or like it's and just seeing it diminish over time. It's overt, 100%. This whole movie is like that. Well,
there's no subtlety involved here.
But I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't think.
No, I agree. I like how it's like this is what we're doing. We're dialing it up to 11. and just like strap yourself in. It's a wild ride. I love, like you said, like those kind of visuals of the Hollywood star at the start of the film and stuff like that. Like this film is so playful with how it kind of portrays different things within the film. It's such a visual film, and it kind of it's a small budget film still, you know. I think it was like just under 20 million budget, and it doesn't look like that. It looks expensive. It's got this brilliant kind of like almost like fish lens.
Yeah, it looks like those early 2000s music videos of you know, like Britney Spears going right up to the camera, sort of like it just looks like it was all shot in one big white room.
Yeah, and it's so glossy.
Yeah,
and you know, you've got these incredible sets which look like they go on. There's a hallway that just looks like it goes on and on forever, and everything is bright colors and unique kind of style going on. Can't really get it out in words very well.
I was kind of thinking it's like kind of a mixture of what Spike Jonze did with like her mixed with like Almodovar's like garish color scheme. It's kind of like both of those things kind of going on. But yeah, it's definitely out there, especially because this movie is a small cast. It is a small cast, and the locations for a 2-hour 20 horror film, it is spread across 2 central locations: the apartment and the studio, and everywhere else is sort of obscured.
Yes,
and which is so good because it really does plop you into like this character's world of Elizabeth Sparkle just being completely honed in on herself and her image, and this movie does trickery so well. Like it, obviously we haven't mentioned Margaret Qualley, obviously, who's
the younger version of Demi Moore.
Yeah,
or better. It's weird because it's, you know, it's not like a fully clone, because you see young Demi Moore in posters and Margaret Qualley only slightly resembles her, but I don't know if the intention was we're not using de-aging here, just go with it, or whether it was just a case of like
it's just a younger, like it's just a different version of yourself. It's not really it's not
the
supposed
exact,
to be
it's not an exact
when you're
replica.
Younger.
Yeah.
Otherwise whenever she goes, because she gets fired from her job as she's been on this TV show, this fitness show for decades, and Dennis Quaid, as soon as once she turned 50, it's all downhill from here. They say goodbye to her and give her like a book as a going away present. It's pretty nasty and horrible. And so whenever she's this other person, obviously, and she goes to audition for the role that she got fired for, and gets the job as Sue, a different name. It makes sense that it's not her, because if it was a younger version of her, they would have all recognized her. So I see it as just like a completely different person, really. But like, but still has a spirit of like what she probably was like when she was younger.
Absolutely. And you also get a bit of a critique on like kind of, how sex and the female body is kind of
male gaze,
marketed to people, especially in like this generation now, like the show that Demi Moore does compared to the show that Margaret Qualley does. They're supposed to be fitness shows, but Margaret Qualley's show is so much about her body and especially her bum. The film very much focuses on Margaret Qualley's bum a lot.
It's like the Demi Moore like stuff we see at the beginning when she's in the fitness class is very much like in the late 90s, those sort of VHS cassette tapes that your mum would have had, of like a ex soap star,
Davina McCall.
Something like that, or Barbara from EastEnders or something like that. It's very much something like that. And then with the Margaret Qualley stuff is more just like an overt music video from 2024. So it is complete odds and ends. And then she gets sucked into this world of being this other person, so she has to be Margaret Qualley for 7 days, and then she has to be herself for 7 days. But if she goes over that timeline, even by a day, then things happen, altercations happen, in the form of deformities and
extreme aging.
So she first takes a bite out of the apple. First night she only goes over by a couple of hours, and then her finger gets completely like aged by about like 60 years. And it's pretty horrifying from that point of view. And she can't reverse that. And then, so what the stakes are pretty early on. And once you see her descend into taking more bites out of this apple, it is just like, it's horrible, because you're like, what am I going to go see next? And Fargeat as a director, yeah, she keeps pushing the boat out. You never kind of know where this is going. Like, you know that this isn't going to end well. No matter what.
You know it's a fable. It's a morality tale. You have an idea of where it's going, but you don't know when the stop button is. You know, you don't know when Coralie's gonna be like, "That's it. This is as much as you
finds
get." But
new ways of just making you disgusted. Yeah.
It's a very kind of bold film to just kind of go fully out there. There's a lot of prosthetic work. There's a lot of really great effects going on.
Yeah, the effects are amazing.
And it looks fantastic. I can only imagine it's a mix of like really good prosthetics and some visual effects.
Yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. It was definitely both, but they were just both employed so well and intrinsically together that like it was seamless.
You can't see the seams in this film. You're right. It is so seamless. Like, you can't see where real and fake ends. But also the film as an overall piece has got an element of kind of fakeness to it because of the way it's stylized. So,
the world
is so
it just
artificial.
Works. Yeah.
It works fantastic together and puts a lot of films with, quadruple the budget to shame with and just how good this looks.
And it's not just like, it's very easy to do shock value. It's easy to kind of go like, oh, that was the enjoyment of this film, but it is a ultimately very sad movie too. And I think, Demi Moore, like she really sells that performance. I would really love to see her be put up for an Oscar for this, because I think she just absolutely sells it. As this journey goes on and she gets more obsessed with her body, the more she just wants to stay at home and completely just go within herself. Every 7 days, her delivery of the fluid she has to give herself to become the other woman. She has to go out of her apartment and go across town and go to the secret deposit box to pick it up. Every time she does it, she gets more and more. She has to wear her yellow coat. She has to like wear it over her face so that nobody will see her. I mean, like, Demi Moore is like a beautiful looking woman. I mean, it's crazy that us as a viewer, you're almost gaslit into thinking that, oh my goodness, maybe compared to her herself, maybe she is hideous. I mean, but she obviously isn't. But the movie is so good at manipulating you and her that you're like, it completely holds a mirror to how we look at ourselves in the mirror every day. It makes the bathroom is like 70% of this movie. It makes the bathroom a horrifying place to exist. The mirror is a horrible place where we judge ourselves, and obviously where this character judges herself, and it ends in such a horrible way. There's a character, all the men are pretty grotesque in this movie, but there is one guy who's sort of on the fence that she meets outside pretty early in the film, who she sat with in school, and he's a little bit like, a bit borderline creepy, but not as creepy as the others.
Yeah, he's a little full on, but you're right. He's a little
bit full on.
Out of all the men in the film, he's
he's sweet in comparison. And whenever she's kind of at a really low point, almost towards the third act of the film, she's like, well, maybe she just tries calling this guy and inviting him for dinner. And so they set up the date, and she goes to go meet him, but she can't get her makeup right, or she just can't stand herself as this other, her real version of herself. And of all the body horror that happens in this film, I find that to be the scariest moment, the most horrible moment of the film to watch, is her repeatedly look at the clock, go outside the door, but keeps going back to the bathroom, and ends in her just messing her hair up and furiously wiping the makeup off her face in a fit of anger and just closing the sheets and going to bed and ignoring her phone. It's a really horrible moment to witness. And it does that thing that, like, that's why it reminded me of The Fly, because you're watching a character that you actually learn to really grow to love, and it's horrible to see this.
Yeah, she's not a horrible person. She's not a horrible person. Never depicted as a horrible person, just somebody who is succumbing to the pressures of a society that really glorifies image and doesn't, let people age gracefully.
No. it's so good. I mean, I loved it. I don't think I've been. I don't get provoked by cinema. I've watched too much cinema to kind of feel that way. But I love it when something like teases me and tries to get that provocation out of me, in a way that a lot of movies did. I hate to slander another film this year, but that's what something like Maxine should have done to me earlier this year, and it just makes that movie look so like child's play in comparison. And I thought that was kind of like the glass ceiling in the recent years in terms of like, Ty West was so out there. But it shows you these French female directors really know how to play.
Yeah. They're really, really good at this. One of the most kind of like exciting and I would say like best cinematic experiences I've seen this year. Yeah, up there with challenges in the way that it like truly does make the most out of the form of camera, audio, script. The whole thing just is just brilliant on all cylinders, and or should I say, firing on all cylinders. And
with similar soundtracks as well.
yeah, definitely an element to that. Definitely an element. Just love the way it portrayed a larger than life story. A twisted morality tale that, like you said, it's not going to end well, and it keeps going. I will say these are my criticisms of the film. We very much like the film. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It does feel that way by the end. There are a few times, I know I kept saying earlier in the review, like, you don't know when she's going to hit the stop button. There are a few moments which I feel she could have hit the stop button, and we would have had the same reaction. The ending is a little balls off the wall. I really liked that, but there was an element of me where I was like, I feel like this would have been tied up in a neater bow if you had ended just a little bit earlier. But these are small criticisms. I'm glad with what I got. I'm glad with what I saw. Some crazy stuff. But just by the end, I was like, okay, this is going on a bit now. It's going on. When are we actually going to stop? But maybe that was the intention as well, to just really kind of go, nope, not done yet. We're going to keep pushing the boat.
Yeah, it does torture the viewer, but I enjoyed the length. Actually, I thought it was pretty impressive how they managed to get a story which on its surface is pretty like disarmingly thin, but managed to get so much out of such a small story. I was entertained the whole way through. I thought it was great, and it's an interesting film to go see with a live, like, with another audience. Not people that aren't just in your inner circle. Because if you go to a multiplex, I'm not sure if everybody will be ready for this film. The first guy, as soon as the credits hit and the title, The Substance, at the end came up and signified the end of the film, a guy just power walked out of the cinema shaking his head in absolute disgust. So I don't think he enjoyed it. But if you like a bit of gnarly cinema, definitely do not miss this and see in the cinema, because it's really good to watch in a vacuum. Really, really good.
Yeah. I think it deserves a cinematic viewing for sure. Watching it on the big screen is quite something.
Don't take your grandmother. Don't take your grandmother unless she's cool.
No. Yeah. It is an 18. So no kids.
Yeah.
It is very much an 18 as well, which is cool. Cool to see somebody make the most of that certification, I guess.
I know. I mean, look, I think about it though. How many 18s do we see a year? It seems to be like very, like, I get see about 4 of them a year. Yeah. Well, this one should be a 21. No, I would have seen this when I was 18. I would have loved it. Yeah. There you go, guys. That's
nice one. All right, next review is the latest Netflix film, Rebel Ridge. It's directed by Jeremy Saulnier, starring Aaron Pierre, Don Johnson, and Anna Sophia Robb. Rebel Ridge follows a former Marine who has the funds that he needs to post bail for his cousin stolen from him by a corrupt police force.
Yeah. That is just the tip of the iceberg. This is a long tale of vengeance.
Yes, that's essentially the first scene in a way. Which
horrible first scene.
And maybe the best scene in the film.
I mean, in terms of getting like, I know. I think the first hour of this film is at that level.
Yes, I don't think
anger.
I don't think anything beats the first scene. I think it's a superb first scene in terms of like introducing you to Aaron Pierre's character, how he deals with difficult situations, obviously setting up the plot, the corruption, and the necessity of why he needs this money to kind of post bail for his cousin. You're right. I think this first half of the film is the best half of the film. It does, it is another 2.5 hour film. You feel its length.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say in a very rubbish way of saying it.
No. I agree with you, though. I do agree with you. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but Jeremy Saulnier, he's a director. I feel like I haven't seen anything from him in a while, but he did Blue Ruin. He did Green Book, which was fantastic.
Or Green Room, not Green Book.
Oh God, yeah, wrong one.
Oh, not that great, not that movie.
Yeah, sorry, Green Room, which was also fantastic.
Yeah, but was that his last movie then?
I believe there's been a film in between those that didn't get very well received.
Hold the Dark.
That's it.
Yes, I was with what's his name? Jeremy. American Fiction.
There's no Jeremy on the list here. Oh wait, yes there is.
Or Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, sorry, Jeffrey Wright, Alexander Skarsgård, Macon Blair, Ryder Keough. Yeah, okay. I seen Hold the Dark? I don't think I have.
No,
definitely haven't. Yeah, it's on Netflix. No, I haven't seen it. Not as critically well received as Blue Ruin and Green Room.
Yeah, love Green Room. I've Blue Ruin was like his big breakout film back in 2013. I remember like coming out in festivals and people raving about it. It just missed me by. But this seems to be like he has got a style. He likes a lone, wounded wolf kind of going off and
inflicting acts of violence
again in a corrupt and cruel world.
Yes, absolutely. Because Blue Ruin is like a revenge film, isn't it, from what I remember?
Yes, from my understanding, that's what that is. Yeah.
But again, it was huge when it came out, and everybody was I remember everybody being so excited for Green Room, and I also thought Green Room was excellent. That was like punks versus Nazis or something.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart as a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, this one didn't hit the same heights for me, but there was a lot of promise, and there's some really interesting stuff going on. It maybe takes itself a little too seriously, which I guess his other films have done as well, but maybe just to greater effect. It is worth saying that Aaron Pierre is kind of fantastic in the lead role.
Oh, I agree.
This kind of very well-mannered, but still kind of quite cold, but caring ex-Marine. He was the guy who taught the special services how to perform martial arts, is kind of his role.
Yes, expert at disarming people. Yeah.
Yes, this film is very kind of anti-killing people. You get one death, but it's not who you think it is, kind of thing. You do get a few more deaths, but never at the hands of the main character.
He fights like Batman.
Yeah, he is Batman. He if anybody's seen Reacher, this film is Reacher.
I know Alex has seen Reacher.
The TV show, not the Tom Cruise films. Tom Cruise films, I think they were rubbish, weren't they? The TV show.
I remember they were kind of fun, though, in a stupid way. I don't know.
The TV show is great, but it's so stupid. But basically, Reacher's an ex-Marine. He's bigger than everyone else, a bit like Aaron Pierre is in this film.
Yeah.
And because he's bigger than everyone else, he's better than everyone else. He goes into places, he sorts out corrupt cops, but he does kill people, whereas obviously Aaron Pierre here, he is more of a disarmer,
Yes, but I do look at Aaron Pierre and I'm like, yeah, you probably could sort half of that town out easily without a weapon. It's the precision in terms of like whenever he's getting stuff done in this movie, he is getting it done. Like there's a boiling anger to this film, certainly in the first hour, whenever it's focused on the sheer, before we get into the whole deep corruption plot, which I think weighs down the film a little bit. It turns a little bit to like a Netflix, mini series in the middle, I think a little bit. Yeah. But for that first hour, when it's just this, so we're going along for the ride. If he's got this task, he's got to get the bail money to his brother, to his cousin, get it back from the corrupt cops that have taken it away from him. That stuff is really effective, and it's hard to watch a guy. The first shot of the movie, him getting run over in his bicycle when he was just listening to some heavy metal music and get rammed off by cops and completely exploited like that. It's hard to watch, and to see the grace of which his character Terry deals with the situation. Like this guy knows how to deal with cops, and he's been here before.
And he's had to. You feel like he's had to grow up.
Yeah.
Figuring this out in a certain way because of his skin color. We are in America. We're in rural America here.
100%. And he knows the script and he is saying all the right things, but still can't do anything about it. And so it turns into this whole sort of seething, bubbling, boiling tension, but he never lets that bubbling tension come to the surface. He does eventually, but it takes a lot for him to get there. And instead, he acts pragmatically. He's always focused on the task. At one point, he gets tasered in the back, and he just pulls the taser with his arm and shoves the guy towards him. It's like this guy's really badass. Even considering the terrible things that are happening, he still manages to make you really root for this guy. I did find myself kind of shaking my fist at the screen at that moment. It was so cool. Then Don Johnson, the chief, Chief Sandy Byrne. So it turns out that this money that's been stolen from him is not just an individual case towards him and just a single act of injustice. It's this whole bigger conspiracy that the police have been, stealing money basically from the community for petty crimes and holding them in cells for 90 days. So that they can't get anybody to lawyer for them, and they prey upon the weak, and it turns into this whole bigger thing. And Aaron Pierre gets caught up in it and becomes a bit of the angel of death for the police in town. Death, obviously. Yeah. That's really it. We got Anna Sophia Robb as well in here. I haven't seen. I was like, that was a bit weird for me. She's like a face of my childhood, like those movies like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and like Bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah, I was like, that's the girl from Bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah, like suddenly she's an adult. But it's I know she's been working, but I haven't seen her recently, and I was like, I was interesting. They kind of become a unsuspecting duo that get talked up. Don Johnson's mean and nasty in this.
Yeah. But kind of calculated.
Yes.
But also,
he's good.
This is what kind of my issue with the film was he was never he is mean and nasty, but he's never allowed to get truly evil. The corruption never spills over so much that they're like a mafia police squad. It feels like it might at some times.
Yes. But I think he's all menacing and talk, but he actually, when it comes down to the third act and he actually is a little bit snivelly at the end. He's weaker. He's weaker than Terry, at the end of the day.
They do make some choices which seem, they kind of say, all right, we've messed up a little bit here. Here's an offer on the table to kind of put this away. So that, they concede at times. They know they're not stupid. They are smart in what they're doing for the most part, I would say.
They've been doing this to people for years, and this is the first guy that's properly challenged them.
Yes.
And catches them off guard. And he, Don Johnson, you see it in his eyes. He's like, do I push this or do I just let this guy go? Yeah. You should have done the second thing pretty early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does. And you know where it's going to go. It ends in this third act, big shootout at the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. 40 minutes into the film, I knew that's why the movie was going to end. Yeah. So you're kind of waiting for it to get there. And I'm not sure the conspiracy stuff because it goes super deep and a little bit I had to rewind it at one point because I missed some information. It's a little bit dense that way.
I don't
think it should have been. Yeah.
The script kind of lets it down at times where it's very expositionary.
Yes, that's
I
the
feel
thing.
that when Aaron Pierre and what's her name?
Anna Sophia Robb.
Anna Sophia Robb. Whenever Aaron Pierre and Anna Sophia Robb are together, they kind of bounce off each other in a way that's kind of monotone, and it feels a little bit kind of false. There is a few scenes in there which some of the writing, some of the lines of dialogue, I was like kind of rolling my eyes at a little bit. And the intrigue isn't there. I'm not super intrigued. I know the cops are corrupt.
Yes,
what exactly are they doing is kind of, unless it was something explosive, but it's not that explosive. It's just kind of like, yeah, they have this system that means they don't, their cameras don't turn on and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's nothing crazy. It's not enough to keep me hooked on the whole thing. So by the end of the day, I'm just like, all right, so how's he going to sort them out? And it takes a while to get there. This could easily have been a lot shorter because we know what's going to happen. Get us there, but let us have some fun along the way. Which it does do.
Yeah, you're so right. Like, it is just, we know good guy, bad man, and these bad men, like, it's, if it kept the same momentum of the first hour and kept the plot simple, didn't kill the cousin off early and kept that just the driving force of the plot, keep it simple, I think it would have been a great film. Yeah. So where I am in the middle, I'm somewhere in the middle because I enjoy it. There's a half a movie I really loved and half a movie I was a little bit exhausted by. But in the center of it, I think Aaron Pierre as his first like proper leading man role, because I've seen him in the Barry Jenkins TV show, the Underground Railroad, and I thought I remember him catching my eye because he is such a presence, and those eyes he had, his eyes are like so piercing.
Was that good, the Underground Railroad?
Like massively underseen. Obviously very devastating due to the subject matter, but I remember he was such a big presence in that film, physically and from an acting point of view. But this is great to see that he's not just a screen presence, he is also a pretty great actor too. I'd like to see more of him.
Oh, well, you're going to hear more of him because he plays Mufasa.
I know. Oh, dear. We won't get into a tangent about Barry Jenkins.
Mufasa origin film. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
We will not go on that.
I've moved us away from the current film to, Barry Jenkins' Lion King, which is interesting. But like we've said before on the podcast,
surprised.
Barry Jenkins getting a house out of this. Good for him, like he's going to get a real nice house from Disney, I'm sure.
Like, he's made at least 2 movies that I'm in love with, so like he gets a free pass for me.
Exactly. I'm with you on Rebel Ridge, very much in the middle. Maybe I was very much rooting for the film at the start of this film, and then by the end, I was like, kind of rolling my eyes a little bit. It does that thing where, you've got all these really bad cops, these really corrupt cops, but, the film wants to hammer home at the end of the day that, like, not all the cops are bad. And this isn't that kind of film. Like, there's good guys and there's bad guys. Like, give me some fun. Kick the corrupt cops' ass, man.
I'm going to say it. I think we both just want a movie where it was a little bit more, maybe not schlocky. I kind of just want to see him kill everybody.
Well, Chris, you can if you jump onto Amazon Prime and watch Reacher. Especially Reacher Season 1 is essentially this film played out over like 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Schlocky, fun, one-liners. He's big. It's cool.
I want the Liam Neeson movie we watched earlier this year.
Yeah, because that kind of does this. Yeah, it's kind of like within that vein of like a modern day Western revenge film, isn't it? Yeah,
well, I get to see the bad guys swallow their own teeth. I like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was better. That was the better Netflix original.
Yeah.
Not, I don't think this is one to turn your nose up at. It's not.
Not at all. Not at all.
What is it? Red. Was it just called Red, that shitty one? I never actually saw it. It's not one of the Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds films.
Oh, yeah. Is that the most watched Netflix film of all time? Has that still got that record?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. I saw the trailer for that and I went, no, thank you.
No. Or what was the action film with Gal Gadot? It was like Purple Diamond or something. It looked shit as well.
Oh, dear. That one skipped me by.
It was like her Mission Impossible, but it was with that Netflix horrible sheen.
Oh, yeah, that Bird Box sheen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Red Notice is the Dwayne Johnson one, which she
Red
was in
Notice.
as well, and Heart of
Yes, that's what I was
Stone.
confused. I thought she was in that, yeah.
Yeah, Heart of Stone is her like solo action
Ooh.
film, which again, I didn't see either of them. But I mean, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes for Heart of Stone and 37% for Red Notice, which is Netflix's biggest one. I don't know. It used to be a time when Netflix originals were really exciting. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But this one is, kind of a callback to their better days, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
When they took a chance on indie filmmakers.
There you have it. You can watch Rebel Ridge on Netflix. That's not going anywhere. So, welcome back to the section of the show where we catch up with our ongoing series, our blind spots on the Sight and Sound greatest films of all time list. We are slowly making our way down the list of films we haven't seen before. This week, we are on number 21, according to Letterboxd, the 1928 film, The Passion of Joan of Arc. So this is a classic of the Silent Age. The film tells the story of the doomed but ultimately canonized 15th century teenage warrior. On trial for claiming she'd spoken to God, Joan of Arc is subjected to inhumane treatment and scare tactics at the hands of church court officials. Initially bullied into changing her story, Joan eventually opts for what she sees as the truth. Her punishment, a famously brutal execution, earns her perpetual martyrdom. Doesn't sound heavy? Does it sound heavy to you, Alex?
It is very heavy, and it's based on the real kind of transcript, right, of her trial by these kind of French religious extremists on the British side of a kind of English-French war. I'm not a historian, so I don't know fully. I've heard of Joan of Arc. I had to do a little bit of Wikipedia reading to kind of figure out what's going on. Basically, she was a very young kind of military general within the French army who believed that she had been kind of sent by God, essentially, to carry out this mission. It was a holy mission to destroy the English, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it was a very early age. She was like in her mid-teens. She was from a peasant family, and she had, from claiming from divine intervention, she had claimed that she wanted to go see Charles VII. He was the king of France at the time, and help him win over the rest of France, because obviously the north of France had been occupied by the English, and this was part of the 100 Years' War. Where both the French and the English were fighting for their divine right to own France. So she felt that she was a pivotal role of that, sent by God to help him win back the country. So
who won France?
He won France. Spoiler. Well, in the end, wasn't it the Duke of Burgundy, the third party, that won it in the end, and then it kind of became what it became. Now you're putting me on the fence.
No, I have no idea.
But I find it so amazing. Before we get into the film, isn't it like such an incredible story that, like, you're talking in the 15th century that a woman, I mean, she died when she was 19, like a woman, and like who led these brigades, these sieges on Paris, and like at the age of 18, like commanding men and armies. Isn't that like insane? Like even like today's standards, like that is just like a really amazing thing to believe, and makes this story so fascinating. And obviously we're so removed centuries from time, and the details are muddied, and that's the whole thing about history, especially when you go that far back. It becomes she becomes so symbolic and part of the canon of France as a country, and ultimately a saint. But yeah, this is quite a sad story, but a real testament of faith and the spirit of Christianity, and following your core values. So yeah, is this your first time watching this film, Alex?
Yep, this was my first time.
That's why we're reviewing it.
But our second, should I say, was directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer, who directed Odette. So very much into these kind of religious films about, this idea of people proclaiming their, religious martyrdom, essentially.
Yes, and both of these films have something in common, where where Dreyer isn't necessarily saying to you, this is 100% real, and if you're not on board with it, we'll get lost because this is my movie. There is ambiguity with, it's purely from a witness point of view. It follows the POV of Joan of Arc, that she really does have this faith, and she's, this has this conversation really between her and God. That's kind of like the core sort of relationship of this film. But there is also that element where you're watching as a viewer, and you have the detachment, and there's that level of doubt as well as to, is she really truly a saint, or the word of God, or is this something that is in her head?
Absolutely. And the film is shot majority in close-up, so you're very much getting this incredible performance by Renee Falconetti, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Famously no makeup in this film.
Famously so. Yeah, then you get the reaction shots of the French clergymen who are trialing her and want her to kind of admit that she's lying and admit that she is wrong in all this. But also there's a lot of kind of like gender identity stuff as well, because Joan has short hair, she wears men's clothes.
It's one of the things that she's convicted for, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That at one point she asks if she can go to mass, and they say no, unless you go in a dress. To which she refuses. So like there's a lot of stuff at play here, and it definitely doesn't portray the French clergymen as like, these guys are the voice of reason. If anything, they are these like hideous, like all their kind of shots of them are like make them look hideous and horrible. These old men, damning this woman to death.
Very devious, looking,
So, as much as it doesn't hold a point of view, there's definitely a point of view to some extent. But I guess the point of view as to whether God is involved in this or not is down to the viewer themselves. But
exactly, the only person in this movie that knows if God is in the picture is Joan. Just in the same way as our main character in Odette was the same. He was there is that ending of that film that maybe confirms things, but for the majority of that film, we are out of the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think many people have said that Falconetti's performance here as Joan of Arc is one of the greatest performances of all time, and I can see why people say that. Like the film kind of lands on her performance, her reaction, because obviously it's a silent film. You don't get any dialogue. Like you are reading everything through these amazing eyes she has. They're very big, they're very wide, and all these different moments where you don't know whether she is proud, terrified, thoughtful, or just seeing something unworldly that we cannot see, that we do not understand. Like she portrays all of this within the film, and it's just fascinating to see. Just some really kind of striking religious cinematography going on here, like just the way it's captured. Apparently a lot of money was spent on the sets, and I think the production designer was a little bit annoyed when he saw the film and realized that it was majority filmed in close-up.
It's these white walls of just like it's an entire concreted set, wasn't it?
But at the same time, like you can feel it there in the room, like they're in this space that is not not normal to us, at least to say. It feels old, it feels ancient, it feels medieval,
but it feels labyrinthian as well. It makes you feel like you're lost. You feel like you're not home. You feel that sort of like isolation that she feels too.
Yeah, there's definitely like a prison vibe throughout. But I mean, there's been multiple cuts of this film as well, multiple different soundtracks as well.
Yes,
I didn't realize this until after I watched the film, that apparently there were like two definitive soundtracks to the film. and they don't know which one is the correct one. And there's also frame rate differences. Am I right in thinking this?
One's
Chris?
20 and one's 24.
Yeah, but they think 24 is the way. But then there are some documents that were sent to like projectionists at the time that said 20. So people don't actually know what the definitive version of this film is.
Because the original score was lost, wasn't it? The music, people I guess have an assumption of what music would have been played when you saw it in the theater back in the day, but nobody knows for sure. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think there's a slightly more modern one that's got a bit of more of like guitars in it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
which I don't think I saw. I definitely saw a more kind of piano, classical, but also kind of like orchestral kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, so I had to. I actually went on Reddit because I had to I did not know which version of the movie to see because of the score, and I went on. I think I went for the one that was Voices of Light.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I went for whichever one, and a bit more. Yeah,
I went for whichever one the BFI player on Amazon Prime was showing, which I think is that one because I don't remember there being any guitars in it and stuff like that.
Fun fact, though, Alex.
Yeah,
there is a version of this film you can see. We went to Green Man recently, and Julia Holter was there, but she has a version of the film with her own score on over it.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I
would like to see the Julia Holter version of this. I wonder what she does.
Yeah, probably something very interesting. But yeah, it's it's one of those films that's like, yeah, maybe I would give every version of it a go just to see, like, because it's such it's so enigmatic in terms of like what is the true version. It's just interesting to see what everybody claims their version to be like and what works and what doesn't. Like I can say, because it's such an over the top film in terms of, this is the silent era, and it's such an emotional piece. But I can see. I don't know if guitars would work for me. If you're talking like electric guitars,
I believe so.
Ooh.
I only heard about these different things.
Okay. But yeah, it's fascinating.
And it's had different like edited versions. There was they didn't discover kind of Dreyer's final cut until after his death, I believe.
But there's still sections of the film that are still lost to this day.
Yeah, but he did so many takes that apparently there's a whole version of this film that's like from different takes. We maybe should have done more research.
This movie's deep in lore, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. And there's been a lot of different Joan of Arc films following it as well. Apparently, Bresson, who did Alcazar, Balthazar, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. How could you forget? Apparently, he hated this film.
Yeah,
he hated this film so much that he made his own Joan of Arc film, which he kind of described as like the definitive version.
Wow.
Yeah, but then again, Dreyer was a Danish man, so maybe there was some kind of how dare you take one of the most iconic French figures and make a film about her from a Danish perspective, maybe. Well, a Danish man cannot touch Joan of Arc. Maybe there's something to that. But yeah, maybe worth watching Bresson's Joan of Arc to see if it's any good.
Yeah, there's I've seen the 99 film that came out with Mia Jovovich, The Messenger. Have you ever seen that? Where she played Joan of Arc? No. That's quite. It's not. It's not bad actually. It's quite interesting. It's more about the battlefield of Joan of Arc and everything, and her trying to the field siege on Paris. But that's quite worth watching. But yeah, I feel like there should be like. I'm surprised it hasn't been done again since then. Like it feels like something Ridley Scott would have done. Yeah, it's quite worth watching. I watched it as a teenager. I don't know how it holds up now, but I remember her being one of her better performances I've seen in the film. But
I did find with this film though, like my head and my heart were in two different places. My head was saying like this is, like from a historical point of view, this must have been incredible to watch, like performance wise, the visuals, all the religious allegory in it.
Yeah.
Like it's something to withhold. And then from like a modern perspective, I was like, this is very repetitive. We're spending a lot of time in this trial. And
it does. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it captured me, like the momentum wasn't flinging me forward constantly, but there were certain elements where I'd go, oh man, like what I'm seeing and the editing here, I think it starts really well. I love all the stuff with the priest when he's got the false letter. The torture chamber stuff is kind of terrifying, but it's just that uneasiness of knowing what could happen.
Yeah.
And then I think your final scene where she gets burned alive.
Yes.
But the editing between, the burning, her face, the cut to the birds flying free. Fantastic. There's so many fantastic things in here, and I know it's good. But yeah, part of me was just like, I don't think this is as good as other films I've seen on the list.
There's a lot of different levels and entry points that kind of separate you, and you either fall in line with those entry points or you don't. I think in terms of religion, how old the movie is, and just its general terms of style, you have to fall in a sort of camp to maybe completely fall in love with it. I think. But
from a historical point of view, and like from its influence on film, it's like, this is clearly incredible and a massive kind of.
Could you imagine if you showed this to people like a year after the actual execution? Like if they had movies back then, if you showed it to the people who were present or death, they'd all be probably like hysterically crying over this film. Is like the most
probably
devastating thing. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's fascinating, and it's an endeavoring film that will like continue to be like a benchmark of early cinema for years to come. And I have no qualms about it being number 21 on the list. It's completely formative for cinema for decades to go.
I don't think we have many silent films left on the list now. Maybe one or two. But I think this has revealed something to me about silent films. Like, we've obviously seen the slapstick, we've seen dramas, and now we've seen this. And there's a lot more to silent films than I thought before starting this list, I think.
Yeah.
It's not an area of cinema that I had particularly taken much interest in. But do you know what? People really found a way around not being able to use dialogue, but to still create really engaging films.
Yeah.
Where, there's a bit of reading in Joan of Arc, you get with the text and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it detracts from the film at all. It is just fascinating. I don't know if it's my own ignorance showing there with silent cinema, but I don't think I'm going to be as kind of, like snobby in terms of seeking out more silent cinema. I think, or maybe not snobby, maybe it's more snobby if you love silent cinema. I don't know, but I don't think I'm going to turn my nose up at it as much as I maybe used to, because I thought, oh God, that sounds like a boring experience. But actually, if this list has shown me anything, you can create some really unique pieces of, art and cinema.
And the further we're getting away from the 20s, I think the more fascinating it gets. I think one of the more endeavoring ones we've watched on this list for me was Metropolis. When just seeing, I love back in these days, whenever they did sci-fi or anything like a monster movie, like the verticality of films have kind of been lost. Like, I love the Academy ratio where everything is like, everything was taller and not wider. And I love that when these massive monolithic sets are just like, so imposing, and our characters are almost like little dots on the screen. We sort of lost that. And I love that. I remember, I think first silent film I ever watched was The Phantom of the Opera from the 1920s of Claude Rains. And I remember just seeing that for the first time, these giant doors of this opera house that they constructed from like plywood and whatever, but it looks so gothic and scary. And we think about we watched Dracula last year, the first Dracula, and think about that first castle. Like, it's so spooky, these super almost like German expressionist spaces that these people exist in. We've lost that. But yeah, it's so good to watch back. And even the Chaplin films, the Buster Keaton ones, 100 years removed, I was laughing my ass throughout those. So yeah, if Mark Kermode said it was the highest form of art, I struggle to disagree with him if he truly believes that. But yeah, it's cool.
Big one next week on the Sight and Sound list.
The daddy, the goat.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, the Apocalypse Now. We're also doing it the hard way too. We are watching the final cut. It was a re-release they did last year in 4K. Came out in cinemas. We missed it at the time, but we're doing it now. And you're also doing a documentary? I'm gonna try to get around to it.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola's wife, Eleanor Coppola, created a much loved kind of behind the scenes documentary called Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's apocalypse, about the massive kind of production of that film. It is worth saying, Kris, you've seen the film, but still only recently. I've only just seen the film ready for next week's episode, so it was truly a blind spot for me, which some people might find mad that I'd never seen Apocalypse Now before. It is one of those painful ones, which I do have to admit. Yes, until recently, I had never seen Apocalypse Now. So I really want to kind of get engrossed in that documentary as well and get more kind of ideas about the behind the scenes. I know some of it just from, generally being in that world of film and hearing different things about Apocalypse Now. But yeah, never actually got around to watching it. So, but a big Francis Ford Coppola episode next week, because we also have the release of Megalopolis, so we can look at one of his past films and then jump back to modern day and see the film. So experimental, they don't know how to market it. So grandiose that he had to produce the money himself for this kind of screenplay that he's had around since the 80s, apparently. He's been wanting to make this film for so long. And our favorite boy's in it, Adam Driver. Yes. So we got to go see it. No. Are you seeing it in IMAX, Kris? Obviously, I can't.
Well, they're marketing it in IMAX, and it does intrigue me. And when I've seen the trailers, it does have a certain visual aesthetic to it, which I'm not sure I don't know if I like or don't like it. I feel really weird about it, actually. But it's so like wide and fish lensy that I feel like in IMAX it might be the right way to see it. So I think I might go my way to watch it that way.
Yeah. No, I'm very interested by Megalopolis, and just one of those big projects that you've heard about for a while now, and we'll finally get to see it on the big screen. As
apparently so,
jury's out, I guess, in terms of whether it's going to be any good. Very mixed in its initial reaction. Was it Cannes that it had its initial reaction, or some very early screenings to production companies to try to figure out who might actually pick it up. But yeah, very experimental. Apparently there's a scene where somebody's actually supposed to come out live and speak to the screen, and have a dialogue with somebody on the screen.
Okay.
So almost like a mix of theater and cinema. I'm going to assume we're not going to get that.
That's not going to happen.
That's not happening at View Longwell Green.
Yeah. Okay. So if they cut that from the film, or they find a way to integrate that into a normal setting, that's interesting. Yeah, I've
got a feeling that's not gonna be in this cut, but maybe we'll hear all about it afterwards. But yeah, intrigued. Anyway, we're talking a lot about our fascination with Megalopolis, but it is just a fascinating film. Very interested to see.
Oh, it's crazy to think that we're watching it soon. It's really weird. Yeah,
very much so. So yeah, join us next week for the big Francis Ford Coppola episode. We're going past and future, baby. Past and future. But yeah, that has been the episode for this week. Last week, we obviously had our first episode of the Ghibli angle. I hope you liked that. We're not sure when episode 2 is going to be, because we've got a bit of a packed schedule coming up in terms of, like I said, the Coppola episode, and then we're hopefully in the London Film Festival, a few weeks of different podcast episodes about that. We've got to make the most of it, guys, as members of the press.
Absolutely. You're going to be wearing a big press jacket now. I mean, fret not. I'm sure there's going to be a period where you're probably going to get like 3 Ghibli episodes in a row or something, because we'll have a dry spell. So it will come. What was the next one? Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah. So, you have a little bit of time to watch that, as do I. There will be another Ghibli episode coming not too far down the line, I'm sure.
Oh, well, wait for that cursed January month.
I think it'll come before that.
Yeah.
I think it'll come before that.
November.
Definitely. We'll be pre-recording some episodes of the Ghibli angle very soon. So whenever there's a gap, they'll be in there, and you'll be able to find out my thoughts on the next Miyazaki / Studio Ghibli film. But yeah, shall we close off the episode, Kris?
Let's do it.
That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We do really appreciate it. And if you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes. Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.